Good evening and welcome to week 4 of our UW Now live stream series. Last week we heard from Dr. Peter Newcomer and Dean Robert Golden of UW Health and the School of Medicine and Public Health talk about the battle against COVID-19. And we also had a special edition last week on Thursday night with band directors Mike Leckrone and Corey Pompey. We have a very special program tonight with Big Ten Men's Basketball Coach of the Year, Greg Gard, and my nomination for Big Ten Chancellor of the Year, Rebecca Blank. We'll begin tonight with an interview of Coach Gard, and I've got a few questions I'm going to ask Coach while we collect some audience questions to present to him as well. And then once we wrap up, we'll bring Chancellor Blank on, and she will tell us a bit of her perspective on what it's been like to lead the university through these turbulent times, and then we'll take audience questions for her as well. So with that, I'd like to welcome Coach Greg Gard. And Greg, it is great to see you. Someday I hope to be with you again. But for now, this will have to do. And it's great to see your face. And it's always good to talk to you. So we're going to get started tonight. I want to tell you or ask you first, I guess, about, it was obviously a very turbulent basketball season with many lows and many highs on and off the court. How did you kind of keep the team together and united in the face of all that turbulence?
Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully everybody out there is doing well and staying healthy and safe. I think, first of all, Mike, every season, regardless of the outcome, regardless of how you finish, has some sort of adversity, some sort of turbulence that you go through, and maybe it's not as well known or documented publicly, but there's always some type of, it's a journey. And those happen in every season I've been through. There's always been ups and downs and twists and turns. But I think our biggest obstacle, or our biggest, obviously, thing that was thrown at us was almost a year ago on Memorial Day weekend when Coach Moore and his family were in that tragic car accident in Michigan. And that really, as we walked through the season, all the bumps and obstacles and distractions and things that we encountered along the way, really that event and the events that followed that weekend, I think were always an anchor for us and always allowed us to refocus and recenter really on what was really important, and knowing that what we were dealing with in the game of basketball and that small realm was minuscule compared to what we had watched and what we had experienced with the Moore family, back on Memorial Day and then June, July, and through the end of the summer. So that always gave us a very good, slap in the face of reality. Like, hey, what we're going through isn't quite so bad. Mm-hmm. There are bigger problems in this world than us losing a game or two, and we'll find a way to get better.
Mm-hmm. What did you learn about yourself or how you coach in the wake of that tragedy? And maybe could you say a little bit about the role that Alondo Tucker came into play for the squad?
Yeah, I think, I've been coaching almost 30 years, and I've gone through one really other tragedy with a player back in 1995 in Platteville that passed away. But in all the clinics and all the coaching classes I've had and all the experience, they don't prepare you for this. This is not part of coaching 101. And really is, that weekend unfolded last Memorial Day. It was really one step at a time, one day at a time. And after I got the news on that early Saturday morning, it was how fast we could get myself and my staff and my wife to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and see Howard and see Jarrell. And those first 2, 3, 4 days were really a fog, and it was really just trying to help the people around you, whether it's our players, and they were all scattered home on the start of summer break. So it was uncharted water. And really, as they came back to class in the middle part of June, it was one day at a time, and just trying to help the people around you and be there to support them. And support needed to be present in different ways. Some of it was very verbal and visual, and others it was very subliminal and quiet. So everybody grieves their own way. And I learned really fast that, obviously a lot of these guys, 18 to 22 years old, it's the first time they've dealt with death or tragedy, and specifically the death of a child in Jaden. So it was obviously a life-altering experience that, again, you coach through a season typically one day at a time. Here was a real life scenario of walking exactly one day at a time. But then talking about Alondo, we could have not had any better person on this planet Earth in position to be able to help and guide our young men through what we had walked through in June and July than Orlando Tucker. Not only from, I think the biggest thing was his relationship with the Moore family. There was an empathy and a sympathy and a deep understanding of the importance of Howard to this program and his family, but also the school's all-time leading player, a guy that played professionally. He's got pretty good street cred with our guys. So him walking in, he's been phenomenal. He's been terrific with our guys, and he's had to learn to calm himself down on the bench a little bit. He got a little too hyper a few times this year, but he learned quickly he's not playing anymore. He's just got to, do as I say, not as I used to do. So mentality, so to speak. But Orlando's been awesome.
Yeah, terrific human being. Well, let's shift gears a little bit to the basketball side of things. And, obviously the team was just on a tremendous streak at the end of the season. And, it didn't always look like it would end that way. I remember watching some games early in the year. I think when we were playing in the Barclays Center, we had a little trouble getting the lid off the basket that night.
You mean the Barclays Center?
Yeah, right. We haven't had great luck there.
No, we had a hard time shooting there. I don't know what it was, but
yeah. What do you think it was? What accounts for just the way the team pulled together from a basketball standpoint? I mean, how do you think about their improvement? What was behind that?
Well, I'd like to say it was great coaching, Mike, but I am smarter than that to understand that, I think every team that I've been a part of goes through some form of transgression and development. And I'm not the first coach to quote this, but the best coach teams are player coach teams. And what I watched down the stretch, and I've seen this with all of our really good teams, is the ownership became the players and how they took over, how we were playing, the adjustments during the game, and just how they developed a refuse to lose mentality and infiltrated through the team. And obviously you have older leaders. I thought Brevin Pritzel did a great job as a senior, Brad Davis and Dimitri Trice. Micah Potter's addition was insurmountable in terms of what he gave us, and that I can't say enough about how his influx into our rotation helped us. But even guys like Aleem Ford had the jump they made down the stretch. Nate Reavers quietly won a lot of games for us with big rebounds and defensive plays. So it was a group effort and a team effort. But again, I think it was the chemistry and the bond and the togetherness that and sometimes, actually most times, you're going to grow the most through adversity when you really get your feet put to the fire and you have to circle the wagon, so to speak, within that locker room. And they did it as well as any group I've been around. They've been through more than any team I've ever been around. So for them to be able to turn the corner like this it was fun to watch. It's why you do this as a coach and as a teacher and as a leader, to watch young people grow and develop and have that aha moment. And they had a lot of aha moments down the stretch.
But how did they handle the postseason being canceled? They were so hot at the end, and then to have the rug pulled out from under them.
Yeah, it kind of all came. I had a pretty good intuition it was going to happen Wednesday night when Rudy Gobert, the NBA player, was diagnosed, and that became public that he was diagnosed with COVID-19. And then the discussion that had taken place on the Wednesday night Big Ten tournament games. And then obviously knowing Thursday's games were going to be played with no fans in attendance. And then obviously right before we were going to practice on Thursday in preparation for Michigan and Rutgers, who were going to get ready to start to play down in Indianapolis, everything got canceled. So met with the team between that 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock window and informed them of that, which they already knew. That social media beat me to the punch with the meeting with the team. But had a pretty good idea the NCAA tournament was going to get canceled too, so I kind of relayed that. But just talked about what we had gone through. And I think anchoring back to Memorial Day weekend and the real life, as Orlando Tucker said that day in the locker room, canceling a basketball tournament is a first world problem. There are bigger issues in this world, and obviously we've seen over the last 6 weeks what big issues really what has resulted from this, and we don't know what's in front of us yet, but they took it, I think, really in stride, like they did everything else. And as I told them that day, hey, if they're going to pull the plug on everything, all the men's team, all the women's teams, all the girls' high school tournaments, boys' high school tournaments, everybody's going to be done. We picked a heck of a way to go out. You go out with 8 in a row, you go out as champions. And that's something, even though we would have loved to keep playing, they had a pretty good perspective of how cruel the real world can be at times. And canceling a tournament, at least they got to walk off with championship hats and a championship trophy the last time they walked off the floor.
Well, and of course the fun didn't end there because they just sailed right through Joe Lunardi's bracket and won the bracketology NC2A championship. Are they? You guys making a special banner or what?
We might
the
have
MVP.
We might have to if we can make room for that. But if that is a computer simulated tournament, I like that computer. I have to get myself one of those computers, and hopefully we can make that simulation into a reality someday soon.
Yeah, we might have to have Lunardi come and tell us how it really all unfolded. But yeah, that was fun to see. So you get a lot of firepower back on the squad next year. What are you looking for on the season ahead, Greg?
Well, first of all, hopefully we get through this rest of the spring and summer, whatever lies in front of us. Talking about not knowing what's coming down the road, I don't think I've ever approached an off season. As I've told the team, we've had several Zoom meetings and phone calls and things, just staying in touch with our social distancing while they're all back at their home bases. This is an unprecedented offseason. Number one, from a standpoint, we're going to be picked really high. We'll be predicted 1, 2, or 3 in the Big Ten. We're top 10 in the country based on who you talk to and what you look at. Now, obviously, those things don't mean anything and don't have any value other than we're talking about it. But it's also unprecedented from the standpoint of we don't have access to them, where right now we'd be going through our spring workouts, and then we turn them loose after finals and we bring them back mid-June and have 8 weeks of training with them then. So, fortunately, I've got a lot of old guys. I've got 5 seniors, and our secret's always been to get old, stay old. And the key is with those older guys, they understand what it takes. They've been through it. They understand how they need to feel physically, what the season's going to entail. And the connection between those older guys and then the guys in between, the guys that are sophomores and juniors, and then those 6 incoming freshmen, this is a critical time for us and they've done a lot of connecting already via social media and Zoom and WebEx and all those things to connect with each other. But it's a great opportunity for those older guys to show the ropes to the younger guys and cement the future for when they're done. But right now we're doing just what we're doing right now, Mike, talking to each other back and forth, and they're all training individually at home, and we're monitoring that, and hopefully we can get them back together sooner than later.
Did you have one favorite memory of the season?
I did, and maybe my favorite memory, and I've been a part of a lot of celebrations, and every conference championship we've won here at Wisconsin up until this year, we've always clinched at home in front of 17,000, stormed the court, cut the nets, thousands of people slap you on the back and hug you that night. But this year's celebration in that Indiana locker room was as special as any I've been a part of. And I think a lot of it was because of what we had all gone through, and we reflected back to last Memorial Day, all the ups and downs, the doubters, everything that they had to face. And for us to shoot off the floor at Assembly Hall really quickly because they were going to have senior day. They didn't want us to celebrate too much there. But the guys you just saw, or those people you just saw in that picture, that was our locker room. And I got every ounce of water thrown on me. I still am waiting for that suit to come back from the cleaners to get dry cleaned. But every ounce of water they could find in that locker room got dumped on me. And we danced around, we hugged, we high-fived. It was an awesome, awesome, awesome locker room celebration. And we didn't want to leave. I know that. We stayed there as long as we possibly could.
That's great. Alan from our audience wonders what you're doing to help the current players and those coming in next year keep their focus on next season with all that's going on in the world around us.
Well, that's a great question, Alan. First of all, our seniors, incoming 6 seniors, they're finishing up their high school academic portions just like our college guys are. They're all online in various states, no matter where they're coming from. So we're communicating with them every week. Our current players are communicating with them every week. And then also they are getting our strength conditioning plan sent to them via virtual video and demonstrations and things like that. And obviously we have to adjust because not everybody's resources are the same. Not everybody has a weight room in their basement or access to a facility. Most of those are all closed down. So it's kind of individualized and customized right now. A lot of body weight exercises, a lot of running sprints in open areas, and a lot of shooting at the park. I don't think our guys have shot at the park or in the driveway this much in a long, long time because they have access to a gym and nice facilities. Yeah. They really appreciate the nice facilities when they come back. But our current guys are doing the same thing. We're kind of all on the same path and monitoring and talking to them 2-3 times a week.
Ben Westfall, who's an athletic director at a high school in Wisconsin, writes in and wonders, what can he tell his coaches to communicate to their players about live recruiting periods in this time of COVID-19, and how can they support their high school athletes?
Yeah, I think right now in terms of the rules, we are shut down. We cannot leave campus. I can't even go on campus technically and hang out in the Kohl Center. I stop in to grab some things now and then get out. But so we can't leave campus to recruit. We cannot bring anybody to campus, and everybody's under the same guidelines right now. So there'll be no spring AAU. The summer is still up in the air in terms of June or what will happen with July. So that is still to be determined yet. I think the biggest thing you can do with your high school athletes, just continue to support them, continue to talk to them, communicate. Have them understand, make sure they understand that they're not the only ones going through it. Everybody in the whole country is going through this, and we'll get through it. There are better days ahead. As I tell my team all the time, we're better when we stay together. We'll fight through these tough times. Eventually the storm's going to run out of rain, and we'll find some rays of sunshine on the other end. But I think just to communicate to your young people, just stay positive and keep taking it, like we talked about earlier, one day at a time, one step at a time, and help those that need the help the most just by talking to them is the biggest thing you can do right now.
I think I'm going to set up a call with you every day. Okay. That improved my mood. Question from Doug. He would like you to talk about the impact on recruiting, when you can't meet, I guess the next class that you're trying to recruit, you can't meet those athletes and their families in person right now. What are you doing? Right.
Well, we're fortunate. We have six incoming seniors, 5 that signed national letters of intent back in the fall, and then a preferred walk-on and Carter Gilmore from Heartland Arrowhead that has joined us. So it's a really good class of 6, and it's a deep class, a big class. And I wanted it that way because I wanted them to learn under the outgoing or the to-be seniors, Davison, Trice, Ford, Reavers, and Potter. I felt that was really important for them to learn under those older guys and see how a championship culture is and what they need to do day in and day out. And then we're fortunately, we're ahead of the game in the recruiting. I can't talk individually about the 3 juniors that have committed, but if you can Google 2021 recruiting class, you'll find out exactly who they are. And so that gave us a huge head start when those 3 young men decided to commit to us last fall. And they're very glad they did too, now that their spring and summer most likely is not going to happen from an AAU standpoint. Their future is cemented in here at the University of Wisconsin. So in terms of communicating a lot of this, we're doing this with our recruits, talking to communication other than the live evaluations at AAU is pretty much the same, just more Zoom and more virtual communication, a lot more watching film of evaluating prospects and trying to cast a little wider net for the 22 and 23 class.
Great. Question from Sarah wonders, what team traditions or activities are you missing most right now?
Well, we missed our postseason reception and our celebration. I know that was going to be special. And the spring is usually a pretty light time. We try to recoup their bodies and, work on their individual game a little bit, and then really give them a lot of time to come up for air academically and make sure they're ready for finals, which are coming up here in a couple weeks. So, the spring is a little lighter time other than just the postseason celebrations and different things that I get to do. I think in terms of, we'll have our tradition. We get back to the campus in the fall. We'll be back on Bascom Hill. That's probably the next big tradition coming, Mike, is the run towards Chancellor Blank's office.
Yeah.
On the base of the hill and head up it.
Those guys can't wait to get to see the Chancellor, can they?
No, I know.
And neither can our audience. Neither can our audience. But
yeah, if we get everybody back, they're gonna. I know that's one thing that they're missing each other. I can tell you that.
Are you missing going into the office? I mean, I feel safer at home, but I think I'm starting to feel like I'd be happier at the office.
Yeah, I went in the other day and it's like a ghost town in there. I think I saw one other person.
Yeah.
So, in today's age, today's with all the technology, we can really do everything functionally from home that we can do from the office. It's just the interaction with your staff, and obviously if you have athletes on campus, that personal interaction every day. But for the most part, we can continue to keep the engine going down the street, up the hill, whatever you want to call it. We haven't shut down too much.
Brian wonders which player is having the hardest time being cooped up right now.
Brad Davison.
Really? Why do you say Brad?
1, 2, and 3? Right? And he's actually, his birthday is tomorrow. I called him today.
Oh, wow.
A day early, and because it buzzed into my phone that it was his birthday. It was actually giving me a day warning. So I started singing happy birthday, and he said, "Coach, you're a day early." I said, "Well, you're going to get called 2 days in a row then." So, he turns 21 tomorrow. I don't have to worry really about him getting in any trouble because he's cooped up with mom and dad up in Minnesota. So he'll behave and be fine.
Question from Ron. What other Big Ten teams do you think are going to be strongest next year?
Well, I think, first of all, we'll wait and see who comes back from the draft, who re-enters or gets out of the draft. But Iowa has almost everybody back. They had a couple guys transfer, but I think Garza's in the draft. If he comes back, obviously they're in contention. Jordan Bohannon comes back off of medical redshirt for the year. In Michigan State, I know will be very good. I know right now the big guy's in the draft, but we'll see what happens with that. I think there's, for the next month or so until we get to that draft deadline, there'll be a lot of jockeying for position in terms of who.
Sure.
Illinois has got 2 guys in the draft, and Kofi Coburn and Ayo DeSumo. So it'll be, like always, in the 18 years I've been here, there aren't any get well games. I'll tell you that. You'll be battle tested when you come through the 20-game league schedule.
Normally about 2 weeks from now, we'd all be gathering in the Kohl Center for your Guarding Against Cancer signature event. And obviously we won't be able to do that in person this year, but I know you really haven't let up on your support of cancer research and cancer care. And I just want to say thank you for all that you and Michelle do on behalf of so many families around the state and our healthcare team.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. And obviously the reception and the welcoming we've gotten for GAC over the last almost 4 years now, almost 5 years. We're almost, I think, on year number 4, but it's been phenomenal. And the reception we've seen not only here in Madison and on campus, but also across the state. And unfortunately, obviously, the coronavirus and COVID-19 has taken center stage right now, but cancer doesn't stop. And if anything, this virus makes cancer treatment, patient care, and research even more vital because, as we know, cancer patients that are going through, whether it's chemo, radiation, they're facing a lot of health challenges as it is, and this virus threat makes it even more, it increases the level of anxiety. And obviously you have compromised immune systems with people that are dealing with cancer treatments. So our hearts really go out to those people, and we wish them all the best, that they can get to the better, healthy days ahead and stay safe and stay well out there. But we really appreciate all the support that people have given to Guarding Against Cancer.
Well, thank you, Greg. And thanks for taking the time to be with us and share your thoughts with the audience. I know people really appreciate hearing from you, and just thank you for doing such a great job at Wisconsin in every way.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on. And to everybody out there, stay well and stay safe. On Wisconsin.
Thanks, Greg. And now it's my pleasure to welcome Big Ten Chancellor of the Year. It has just been decided by me. Big Ten Chancellor of the Year, Rebecca Blank. Becky, I know you probably never could have imagined what we've been through these last 5 or 6 weeks on campus when you signed up for this job. And I do want to thank you for, your leadership during this period and your entire team. I know you guys are really working around the clock, having to make a lot of really monumental decisions. And it's a very big lift for a university our size to move all of its activity, educational activity online and try to keep students engaged. And I just know it's really been an extraordinary effort by your team and all the faculty and staff on campus. So thanks for that. And why don't you share a few remarks of kind of how this period has been for you and the team, and then we'll take audience questions as well. So Chancellor, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mike. And it's a real honor to be here with Coach Gard. It has been a very strange and very intense last 6 weeks on campus. As I've said to several people, I don't think I necessarily needed this much experience in crisis management, but we've all gotten it in any case. So when this hit, and it hit pretty fast in terms of the decision to close down campus, I sort of said there were three priorities that we needed to follow. One is that we absolutely had to finish the semester. We had to graduate our seniors. We had to let people complete all of their credits and have everybody ready to move forward to whatever was going to happen next year, whether that was more classes or some other thing in their life. Secondly, given the uncertainty of all of this, the one thing I know is that one needs to communicate always, frequently and clearly when you're in a time of crisis and a time of uncertainty, and that we were really committed to that. And then thirdly, following along that we would say, I don't know, whenever we really didn't know, rather than trying to make it up or get ourselves in trouble by making promises we couldn't keep. And those are the three things we've tried to do over the last 6 weeks. So we shut down our in-person classes really fast, and I give enormous credit to our faculty and our students and our staff. In the space of 11 days, we put over 7,000 classes online. By the 12 days after we had made this announcement, 99.9% of our classes were online. And now we've been working to improve them on a really regular basis, and that has been just great. I'm happy to say that in 2.5 weeks, we're going to graduate all of our seniors and our professional students and our PhD students. It's going to be a virtual graduation, but I have committed to finding a time when we can all come together again on campus and celebrate our class of 2020, even if it's 2021. We will get together and do that. We, of course, had to move students out of the dorms and the residence halls, and that happened fast as well. We've still got about 550 students in the dorms, mainly international students or students who, for whatever set of reasons, can't go home and need a place to stay. So we've been really working with them and making sure they have the support that they need. Now, our campus is largely closed down, and that means our research labs are closed. Unless you're engaged with really vital research on viruses, on epidemiology, you are not on campus right now. And that's particularly a problem for our lab scientists. I am pleased to say that we have more than 4 dozen pending research proposals for COVID-19 research for some of the funding that the federal government is making available. And that's everything from our medical school to our engineering school to our social sciences. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how we jump in, not just to solve the immediate problem, but to really try to understand and prevent things like this from happening again. We're seeing a lot of ways where the Wisconsin idea in action is happening. Just to give a few examples, our engineering school figured out that there was a big shortage of these face masks that people use in medical settings. And they put together a pattern for a face mask that could be made with very readily available designs. In fact, the person who put the pattern together, put it together out of materials that he went and got at Home Depot, has put that design out publicly, and a number of manufacturers have grabbed it. So Forty is making these masks using our design and has produced thousands of them for various medical personnel. Our American Family Data Science Institute is working with universities around the country to collect as much data as possible on the COVID-19 infections and disease rates and death rates, and trying to model as clearly as possible what we know, adding more data every day and running those models. So, we're really trying to work on things here. We've also put some of our residence halls available. The state is using one of our halls as an isolation facility. UW Health is using JOPE for its medical personnel who need a place to stay overnight. And the county has asked if they can do that for some of their first responders. So we're really trying to do everything we can to help the community. My biggest concern with all of this is the financial issues it's creating. I've said publicly that our current hit on an optimistic scenario is about $100 million, and I think those numbers have been going up as we've been rerunning our scenarios. And if the students aren't back in the fall, if we do not have a full fall tuition collection, and our international students don't show up and a lot of our domestic students aren't there, we're really going to have a major financial crisis on campus. Now, that's one-time money, and it's all going to bounce back. We've got a cash flow problem, basically. But I'm also concerned about the economic effects on families in the state and around the region. who might not feel they're going to be able to afford to send their kids to college. And we're going to have to work on scholarship dollars to make sure access is there. I'm also concerned about the state budget and what this is going to mean a year down the road in terms of budget decisions. And those will be permanent cuts and much more difficult to deal with in some ways than the one-time cuts. So as we're looking forward, we're really concerned about fall, trying to think through everything we can as to what could we do to make this campus open, make students and staff and faculty feel safe. It's going to involve a lot of testing. It's going to involve some rejiggering of how we do classes. And I just hope we can get to that point. We'll have to see how the public health crisis evolves. As we look further down the road, lots of changes for higher ed. We're going to be doing a lot more online. I think workflow is going to look different. It's a lot more telecommuting. And just the way we live our lives in higher ed and every place else, we're going to be paying more attention to what I think of as health issues. How do we space each other? How do we interact with each other? How do we guarantee that this, like I say, doesn't happen again? And we're going to have to change some of the ways we do business because of that. So, it's been a really difficult 6 weeks in some ways, but thinking through the implications of this and trying to figure out how do you create opportunities? How do you move higher education and the University of Wisconsin-Madison further into the future faster because of this crisis, I think is what we're all trying to do. So let me stop there and open up for questions.
Great remarks, Chancellor. Can you expand a little bit? I have been, I guess, on the record saying to our alumni that I think this experience that we're living through will give people a much deeper appreciation for science and for the role of a great research university. So once we get through the crisis, I actually think research universities will be more important, not less important. Do you feel that way?
If we cannot communicate effectively to the public the value of a research university, particularly at this moment in time where we are on the front lines of looking for vaccines, looking for drugs that might mitigate the effects of this disease, looking at what the implications are for our society, for equity, for access, studying the economic impacts. We are set up to do that. We are research machines. And, I really hope this reminds everyone, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but all around the country, of the value of these big research universities, and particularly these big public research universities, whose mission really is to serve the public and to figure out ways to solve problems.
One of our audience members wonders, what are the biggest challenges in delivering a quality education to students as you've shifted everything online so quickly?
Yeah, well, the first problem was just getting everyone to figure out how do you use the online technologies. And some of our faculty were better at that than others. We'd already moved a number of ways online. We are teaching a number of our summer courses online. We've got a number of professional master's courses online. We are actually preparing this next fall to launch our first undergraduate degree program aimed at adult learners who can't show up for a residential college experience. So we had a lot of the technologies and a lot of the expertise, but not everyone had that expertise. The other problem we had, of course, is we had a lot of students who, when they got home, didn't have the right computers, didn't have the right access to internet. We tried to provide a lot of loaner computers. We're working with a whole number of students, really one-on-one on how do they get into the classes, how do they use this. The last problem is how do you do this at a quality level? You can tape a lecture and put it up, but that doesn't give you the sort of interactions and the learning and the active discussion that the University of Wisconsin is about. We want this to be quality education, not just the easiest, cheapest thing available. And as soon as we got all the courses up, all of our staff that were focusing on this, and we had about 200 people from across the university who jumped in, then transitioned to advising individual faculty on how do you do it better. And how do you use some of the chat machines and class discussions? And, it's been a learning curve. And, some of the classes are going better than others. I hear good news from some students, and some students will say, that class just isn't working like it used to. And in some classes, it's very hard. It's hard to do chemistry labs. It's hard to do performance classes. Architectural studio things. It's just difficult in some cases. But people are adapting, and I think we're doing a pretty good job.
There's a couple of really big building projects going on campus. The Nicholas Recreation Facility, which is the successor to the SURF that we hope will open soon, and the chemistry building. Is work proceeding on those big projects?
Yeah, as you know, the state does our building projects for us. and the state has declared these construction projects essential services. So work has been going forward on those projects. Now, as we're looking at our financial implications, there are a number of smaller projects that we're probably going to delay over this next summer and this next fall, simply to preserve cash. But the big projects are moving forward, and it's really important we finish some of those up. I very much hope we're going to launch the work on the new vet med school and some of the other things that are coming forward in the very near future.
Great. We got an audience question from Don, whose daughter has been accepted to UW-Madison to start in the fall, and he was just wondering how the pandemic has affected admissions decisions. Are we admitting more people or less? And maybe what's the take-up rate? Are there any early indications of how that recruitment of the next freshman class is going?
Yeah, as you can imagine, we're watching our admissions and our recruitment really, really closely. We had over 46,000 applications, the largest number of applications we've ever had from all over the world. So far, our admissions don't look very far off where they were last year, the year before. We've got slightly lower acceptances among international students, and I think most higher ed leaders do not think we're going to have the same international class we've had in recent years, that they just aren't going to come this next year in quite the same numbers. The problem is it's hard to tell from what we're seeing in April as to what's going to actually happen in September. We're running a long wait list, much longer wait list than we normally do, in case we do get a lot more melt. But I've said to people, we aren't going to know till the first week of classes how many students are actually going to show up and how many at some point in August are going to decide, I'm taking the year or the semester off. I'm going to do something different, particularly if we're not running in-person classes and it's going to be online. There are a lot of high school seniors who spent too much time in the last few months doing online learning. Yeah. And I think we'd have a lot of melt. It's going to be really hard to put a full class together under those circumstances.
Yeah, it's probably a bigger headwind for us because everybody knows there's no place that's more fun to be than Madison, as a student. And we probably don't have that same advantage online.
One of our problems,
maybe it's more fun.
We don't have visitors coming to campus, and one of the things that seals the deal with a lot of students is they come and visit campus and say, "Yeah, that is where I want to be." So we've got anyone who hasn't looked, we've got a great virtual tour of campus, but it's still not quite the same.
No, the terrace isn't the same virtually. So question from Alice, who wonders, switching to online classes is a big shift, but probably has some advantages and could expand the number of people who might potentially enroll. Are there any plans to keep online offerings going, even if we're able to open as normal in the fall with in-person education? Would we add more students that way?
Well, as I've noted, we've actually been growing our online offerings. We have a number of professional master's degree programs that are online only, designed for folks who have careers and jobs and families anywhere around the world, but who want a Wisconsin degree in one of our professional schools or one of our programs that offers, the skills that people are looking for. And I've told pretty much all the courses that are running in-person professional master's programs, they should be thinking about putting things online this fall as well as holding it in person, because there are going to be a lot of people unemployed, not working full time, and saying, well, this is a really good year for me to get a few more skills and add a degree to my resume. So I think we're going to see an increase in students at the master's level. Among undergraduates, as I said, we are working on our first undergraduate degree aimed at adult learners. And our plan is to roll out one degree program this year as a trial, and then roll out 4 or 5 others next fall. So we really are planning on expanding those online classes. We're going to teach all our summer courses online this year. We don't know if we could come back or not. We decided let's just make that decision. So, faculty are going to have a lot of chances to get more experience in online teaching. And while I firmly believe that an on-campus and residential experience, not only is often better academically for the sort of interactions you get, but it's better for the whole set of experiential learning that you have on campus as well. But not all students are going to be able to achieve that. So, we want to serve those students as well.
Great. Current student Danielle Wendricks has a question. Danielle wonders, is there a date at which you're going to have to make the go, no-go decision for fall? And if so, when is that?
Yeah, we're not giving an exact date. It's almost surely going to have to be before the end of July, simply because we want to do, we don't want this to be a 10-day process. We want it to be a fully thought through process if we are running a lot of our fall classes online. So, you expect a decision sometime in July and certainly by the end of the month.
Okay, thank you. And a question from Gary. He wonders what happens to seniors who are doing their student teaching this semester. Any idea on that?
Yeah, they sort of lost that possibility, right, when schools closed down. And a number of them have gone and done some absolutely great volunteer work, I might note, in the community. Yeah. I am not quite sure what the education school has negotiated. My guess is that a number of those students are going to have to do some additional student teaching to finish that requirement before they actually graduate. But I honestly don't know the detailed answer to that.
They should probably do some Zoom teaching to get ready for this future we're in.
Yeah, yes.
Question from Judith. Who can I talk to about financially supporting students in the crisis? I think there is a specific fund for students in the crisis. Yes, Judith, there is.
It's just so happens. Let me say a bit about, we've got a number of students in financial difficulty, obviously, and we immediately set up a financial aid office that's giving out grants and assistance. I think we passed out close to $4 million so far to students for any range of things looking for help. And that's one of the areas where one of the recent federal pieces of legislation, something called the CARES Act, is going to give us additional dollars specifically to provide direct support to students. That said, there is a fund at the foundation, and Mike is going to give the exact name of it, which anyone can donate to, which is also designed to provide aid and assistance to students who really need a little bit of extra help to finish their schooling.
Yeah, it's front and center, I think, on the foundation webpage, and we will push that out to our viewers in an email when we're done tonight. Kate, a viewer, wonders, will students receive any partial discount on their tuition for this semester?
So we did give refunds prorated to our students who are in the dorms on both their residence halls and housing and food fees. That seemed only fair. We made them all go home in the middle of the semester, and we certainly couldn't charge them for the last half of the semester. But we are not doing any discounting or refunding on tuition. As I said, our first priority was to complete the semester. We are doing that successfully. Our students are all getting credits for the classes that they were in, and we are not going to refund tuition for this semester.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's been a lot of extra work, frankly, if anything, and for faculty to change an extra cost. But another audience question, what can alumni do to be most helpful during this time?
Well, if you know any students, go, give them a pat on the back. And I know it's been really difficult, and I particularly feel sorry for our seniors who've missed all of the rituals of their last half semester on campus, all the things they were looking forward to, the big graduation in Camp Randall. My heart just goes out to them, and I say we'll hopefully get together. But if you know a senior, write them a note and congratulate them. Other than that, the giving to help support students is important. Being in touch with, if you're, in touch at all with the department you graduated from, checking in with the department to say, is there any way I can help specifically out of my profession or out of my background? And I know a number of alumni who are doing some special things, particularly with our students who are graduating and finding that the jobs that they thought they were going to go for are not as available. Anything that our alums can do to help coach students and much less hire them would just be great. So, there are a lot of ways in which you can get involved.
Yes, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, we are open for business at the foundation. We are certainly trying to raise money for student emergency funds, as you mentioned and was asked about, but also for COVID-19 research and help there. And, just the general long-term health of the university. The university is under tremendous stress right now. It's an important institution. And while we're well aware that other basic needs exist and have become much more prominent and pronounced in this pandemic period, one thing that's held up reasonably well so far is the stock market. I reminded our team today, the stock market, the S&P 500 at least, is 30% higher than it was at the beginning of our campaign. So there are things that are still possible here, and we can use people's help, of course.
I'd say one other thing as well, which I think is really important. Your comment earlier on the value of a research university to the state, to the world. This would be a good time to communicate that to your state legislators. If not now, next fall, the following spring, we're moving into a budget year. The state budget's going to be crunched, and they're going to have to make priority choices. And not just UW-Madison, but all of the schools in the UW system are really feeling enormous financial pain. And we need the state to understand what we do for the state and to support us. So I'm hoping that all of you who live in Wisconsin will send that message along to your legislators multiple times over the next year.
Great point. Question from Anders, on lessons in leadership, how has this crisis pushed you as a leader and what have you learned?
That's a great question. Let me start by saying I have a really great team. We have worked together for a number of years. We all know each other well. We've gone through various simulations of emergencies. All of that really mattered when this hit, and it made us, I think, much more prepared than we would have been otherwise. I knew communication would be important. I think I didn't value how important it would be. And there's some ways in which I feel like I've spent the last 6 weeks constantly editing messages. But that's a really important job for me to be doing right now. And I value that. And I think it's been important for outreach, not just to students and faculty, but to parents, to citizens in the state, to state legislators. I have to say, I learned a whole lot more about testing and its effect on pandemics, and trying to think through how you close down a $3 billion major research institution is not something I ever necessarily wanted to learn, but I've learned a whole lot more about this institution and how it operates. We're going to have some tough choices to make as we move forward. And, I went through a whole round of budget cutting with some state cuts about 5 years ago. And we're going to go through that again. And we're going to have to think really hard about where's our value added and what are our priorities and what do we cut and what don't we, and where do we reduce revenues and where do we say, no, this is really important. And those choices are always hard, and you've got to make them in conjunction with and listening to all of your stakeholders around campus. And, that just takes time. I feel like I've been working incredibly long hours, but some of it is you've just got to reach out to people and talk to them and listen to what they have to say. And that is my job right now.
Chancellor, do you reach out a lot to some of your peers around the country and share ideas and, compare notes on how you're all handling this? Because obviously, as you noted, everybody's going through this.
Yeah, and it's really helpful to do that occasionally. There are a few people who I've called and talked to. The Association of American Universities, which is the 65 big research universities in the country, half public, half private, just had an online meeting yesterday in which we all sort of exchanged our pain and our stories and talked about how we were thinking about the fall. And that was really, really helpful. Partly it's a therapy group, right? Everyone else is experiencing some of the same problems, but partly you're listening to see, okay, who else has some good ideas that we can steal or is thinking about some things we haven't thought about as deeply. And hopefully they learn some things by listening to me too. But, it really is helpful to be able to talk with your industry group.
Let me give you one final question here from Don. He wonders, does Chancellor Blank jump around at 3 p.m. on Saturdays?
We went out on our front porch to jump around just 2 weeks ago. We didn't get out there last week, but it's a good reminder to come out this coming week. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, everyone in Madison at least is supposed to go out and jump around on their porch on Saturday at 3. So come join us. That's
great. Well, Chancellor, thanks for all your tireless efforts during this really difficult period. I have the pleasure of being with you on a daily basis these last weeks that we've been dealing with this. And I just want to say I'm just so impressed, and really we're all uplifted by the way you've approached this, your communication, your thought process, your decisiveness. It's really helped a lot, and we've all learned a lot from you. So thank you for that. And thank you, Mike, for the foundation support. And as I say, thanks to all the alumni for all the ways in which they support us and send good wishes our way. Great. Well, and congratulations again on being named Chancellor of the Year. I hope you and Hans that award. I hope you can celebrate in place tonight. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. So thank everyone for joining us again tonight. Join us again next Tuesday at 7 o'clock when we'll have Thomas Friedrich, who's a professor of pathobiological sciences, and he'll talk about how COVID-19 is transmitted, the evolution processes, testing, and vaccines. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us again. It was great to be with Coach Gard and Chancellor Blank tonight. And thank you all, and on Wisconsin.